guys, so it's your girl Christina here, and today I thought I'd share with you some simple, basic introductory techniques to sewing. Here we go. So the first thing I will tell you is you gotta know the body you're sewing for before you can sew. So you need one of these. This is a tape measure. Okay, now I'm getting up close so you can see me. And as you can see, a tape measure has two sides. On one side, it just has inches and it has hash marks, okay? So this big numbers obviously are each inch. And then the mid-size hash mark, that marks the halfway point. Have you ever seen in sewing where it will say 5/8? Well, if we use this little area right here and you say this is the starting line, halfway, right? So each one of these little hash marks, if you count them, there's 16. And so if you go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4, 5. So that number 5 right there, from there to there is 5/8. So a tape measure is really important because there's lots of numbers in sewing. You got to know how wide things are, how long things are, in order to know how to sew for them. So right now in this video, I'm going to teach you how to measure your body so that you can know your measurements for sewing. Here we go. Okay, so I'm back. And I have two of my very best friends. This is CJ. And this is Sugar Bones, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here in a second so you can see them top to bottom. But these are my dress forms. Now, when you're measuring, you're gonna be measuring yourself, but I wanna be able to show you exactly where to place your tape measure, so I'm gonna use them to help me explain. But first, I wanted you to see them. So CJ is obviously similar to someone we know. And for those of you who are wondering, I'm a size 26, 28. On a good day, she can wear a 24, but most of the time I sit right in the 26, 28 region. So CJ is actually the same size as I am, and I've padded her, which let me give you a better view of her. Hold on real quick. Okay, so CJ, as you can see, is juicy like me. So I got CJ. CJ was what you would consider a plus size dress form, like a size 22, and I padded her up so that she would be the size that I am. So she's very modest, that's why she's wearing her dress right now. And then this is Sugar Bones. These are just my nicknames for them. You can guess in the comments why I call them this. And Sugar Bones is what you would consider sizes 8 to about size, I'm gonna say she goes up to about a 16. Depends on how wide I can get her. And just for a little quick demonstration, she has these dials, you see, and then you keep doing it till her body gets wider. So the dials are everywhere. All right, so these are my dress forms, and this is how I make clothes. But you don't have to have these to make clothes. You can make clothes for yourself and just measure your own body, and it's totally fine. I worked without these for many years. So here's how a tape measure works. I'm gonna get a little closer. Here we go. A little closer. I think you can see us a little better. You can see all my sewing mess now. You're welcome. So whenever you're measuring, there are 3 basic measurements that are the most important measurements when you're gonna see how to sew for your body. And the first one is gonna be bust or chest. And this is if you have breast tissue or if you do not have breast tissue. Some girls don't have a lot of breast tissue and some men have more breast tissue. So you need to measure according to breast tissue and how much you have, your waist, and then your hips. And I'm gonna kind of show you and explain what those are. So the first thing you do is you're gonna take your measuring tape. Now, if you're like Sugar Bones here, one measuring tape will be plenty, but some of us aren't exactly like Sugar Bones and we need a little extra tape. So I have a super cute trick I'll show you where I take 2 measuring tapes and I staple them together. So if you have a measurement, like my stomach is more than 60 inches, I'm just gonna be real upfront about it. We'd find that out when we measure Sugar Bones, and I need extra tape. I have the second tape measure attached, and then I'm able to go past and know exactly how big. So if you are a more generously created human being like myself, then please put 2 tape measures together. You can get these very inexpensive at the dollar store or Walmart, and then you will have a tape measure that works for the size body you have. So for Sugar Bones here, breast tissue, you're gonna go right on the nipple line, right across the nipple line. Now this is with your good bra on. Don't measure yourself with them sagging. If you're like me, you've had a few children, things point down. You need to put on the good bra. You need to have the good posture. And if we're doing it on ourselves, we're just gonna reach around the back here. So you get up by that bra line. And we're gonna come right across las boobies. See that? And we're gonna catch that measurement, boom. So mine's a little past the 60 mark because like I said, I'm generously created. So it's hard for me to know exactly. That's why I use my double tape measure. Let's do it on sugar bones. So if we come around the back of sugar bones, we're coming right across our nipple line here. And we're gonna go right where this little tab is. So let me bring up closer. So she measures next to the tab at 41. So that means that when I come around her body to where 41 is, that's where the end of this is where the tape measure starts. So you don't measure past it or at the halfway mark. You start with the very end of this little silver tab. And all tape measures have this little silver tab on it. It's kind of par for the course. They all have this little tab. So this is where your mark is. And so for sugar bones, her bust in this current status that she's in is 41. Now, if you don't have a lot of breast tissue, or if you're a man, you have a broader chest, your nipple line may not be exactly the widest point of your chest. And so you want to really catch the widest point of your chest so that you can know how wide you are. I want you to think about like a sock or a dress. Like if you put something on or a shirt and the widest point of your chest is where the buttons are pulling, then the shirt really doesn't fit, even if the rest of it does. So you need to get that widest point of your chest, which is oftentimes right here in that underneath the armpit area. But that's if you don't really have breast tissue or if your nipples are a little lower. Let's just be straight up, right? Okay, second, we're gonna do waist. So I'll show you on my CJ here. She's a big girl. I'm gonna use my double tape measure. So what we do is, we're gonna choose this place that you are the narrowest. My narrowest area is higher, like my actual belly button, if you wanna consider that my waist. My belly button's way down here, and I don't wear anything at this waistline. So you need to choose the narrowest spot in your body so that you can have an understanding of your dimensions. Your widest part in your upper body, which is usually your bust or your chest, the narrowest part, which is your waist area, and then your hips. And your hips, which we're gonna measure as well, that's gonna be where you're the thickest, down here in the booty area. Some people use distances like 7 inches below. Honey, you try to measure 7 inches below here to here, you're gonna be putting my hips way up here. My hips are down here. So everybody's different. I like to really measure widest, narrowest, widest. That's gonna show me, and for me, it's because I have a big middle, and you might have that too, okay? All right, here we go. We're gonna measure good old CJ's waist. So I'm gonna measure, you see this area of her? She has the same thing I do. She has a big belly. So I measure this area right here. And again, I'm gonna make sure my measuring tape is flat against her body. I'm gonna make sure that I catch that silver tab, like I showed you, right up against this area. And I wanna make sure that it's straight around. I'm gonna look at the back, and this is where it can be a little hard to measure yourself, so you might need a little help, okay? Right here in her narrowest area, she is right around 55.5 inches. So that means, if we're up close and personal, that the silver tab is hitting right here at the 55-inch mark. You see that? So I measure right from the beginning of that little silver tab. And so now I know measurement here, now it's time to measure here. I do not have a big booty, okay? That is not an area where I have a lot of meat, but I have a lot of lower stomach. And so when I say hips, I don't want you to think hips. I want you to think widest circumference. And remember circumference from math, which is the circular measurement around something. Circumference around the bust is the bust measurement. The circumference around the waist is the waist. So let's choose a circumference down here that's your widest. If you have a big old butt, you got big hips, you need to measure that. That's what you need to measure. Because you may take a measurement that's considered technically the hips on sugar bones right here. and then you go to put it on and it won't fit over your butt cheek. So that's because you didn't put that in your hips. That's part of the hips. So when you're measuring your hips, which is usually the widest measurement, but everybody's different. Come here, big girl. Look, look. CJ needed 2 measuring tapes for this one. Come on, girl. So my CJ, it right here, it measures to 52. So I got to add from one tape measure to the other. So if you use this technique that I'm using where I use 2 tape measures, I know that she has 8 inches on top of the 60 because we went all the way to the end of one tape measure, and a tape measure is 60 inches long, and we got 8 more inches on the other. So she has a hip circumference or measurement around of 68 inches. So the reason this information is important is not just so that you can know your size, but all clothing, patterns, all the things we do when we want to make something, we have to start with measurements. That's what tells us how much fabric to buy. That's what tells us what kind of patterns we can get. That's what tells us which size to choose on the pattern. And you can even use your measurements to know how to buy clothes at a retail store. So it's important to know your measurements. It'll help you buy bras. It'll help you buy, you ever go to buy a girdle, a faja, and it's like, these are the measurements. You're like, how am I supposed to know that? This is how. Okay, you guys, so that's how to use a measuring tape, how to measure your body. Like I said, hash marks in the middle, count them. That's where the fractions come from. 5/8, 8 hash marks, 5 of them, that's 5/8. Most common measurement in US measurements and sewing is 5/8. So that's why I keep saying it. All right, I think that's it. So please follow me, Christina Wells Designs. Click the subscribe button, or if you're watching this on Facebook or Instagram, please give it a like and a share. If you know anybody who this might help. All right, you guys, keep sewing and creating. I'll see you later. Bye.